Hey everyone, I'm glad that you're here today with me. I have something that I want to share, and I think the Lord's been leading me to share with you. I've talked before about the fact that the purpose of this channel is really just to help awaken people to the season that we are living in, and that is the season of the Lord's return. I've become really aware of the fact that most churches are not talking about this. Most pastors are not talking about this from the pulpit. So people need to know what's going on. And I just want to help awaken people to this very, very exciting time that we're living in, where Jesus is going to come back first in the rapture for his church. And then we, as his bride, will return with him in the second coming. So, what an exciting and time that we live in, and what a privilege to be part of this generation. So, how do we know that we are living in this season? You know, the Bible makes it very clear if you begin to search. And I think that if you look around, we know that the signs are converging. In Matthew 24, Jesus tells his disciples about what to be looking for, what signs to be watching for the end of the age. And certainly, many of those signs have been happening through the generations, there's no doubt about it. But there is a convergence taking place now of all the signs coming together. And the birth pains are happening. Jesus speaks of the birth pains, where these signs will be increasing in frequency and intensity. And I'm going to talk more about some of those other signs, but today I wanted to talk about the big super sign. You might wonder what that is. The big super sign is Israel and the regathering of the Jews back into the land and the reestablishment of their Jewish state. So, back in 70 AD, you'll remember that the temple was destroyed and the Jews were dispersed throughout the four corners of the world. And they faced horrible persecution, and to the point where they were almost completely wiped out in the Holocaust. But on May 14th, 1948, the Lord brought the Jews back into the land and reestablished them as a nation again. What a miracle that was, truly. And you know, they not only came back into the land, but they have flourished and they are thriving. I wanted to read something to you from some notes that I have about this time that says God promised that the reestablishment of the nation, the land, would bloom again. As Ezekiel put it, people would one day exclaim, "The desolate land has become like the Garden of Eden." That's from Ezekiel 36:35. And that is exactly what people exclaim today when they visit Israel. For it is once again a land of milk and honey. Over 200 million trees were planted during the 20th century. Rainfall during that century increased 450%. That's amazing. The former malaria-infested swamps have been converted into cultivated land. Water from the Sea of Galilee has been channeled to the deserts, causing them to bloom. Wow. It truly is a miracle. And you know, Israel today is so strong. They're such a strong nation, militarily and economically. All you have to do is turn on the news, and everything right now is about Israel, because things are getting ready to go down. And you know, you might look at the news and it might look bleak over there in the Middle East, but you know, when I watch the news, I kind of get excited because I know that all the things that are taking place is all been prophesied. And Ezekiel 38 talks about this great war that's going to take place with Russia and Turkey and Iran and some other countries, and all of that is beginning to emerge. And so All you have to do is pay close attention and you'll see that the stage is indeed being set and the dominoes are in place and beginning to fall. So it's a really exciting time. You know, many people believe that this is exactly what Jesus was referring to in the parable of the fig tree in Matthew 24. Matthew 24, 32 through 35 says, "Now learn this lesson from the fig tree." And most scholars believe that the fig tree represents Israel. "As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." So let's go back to that line, "As soon as its twigs get tender and the leaves come out." Most people believe that that's what he's talking about, is the rebirth of Israel. And that when that happens, we will know that summer is near, that we are in that season. And then he says, "This generation will not pass away until these things have happened." Well, what generation? Certainly the generation that sees Israel become a nation again. And also the nation that's, or excuse me, the generation that sees all those things in Matthew 24 begin to take place and begin to increase in frequency and intensity. So what is a generation? Well, there are differing views on that, and you can kind of draw your own conclusions about what exactly a generation is. But the one that I find the most compelling is in Psalm 90, chapter 90, verse 10, that says, "As for the days of our life, they contain 70 years, or if due to strength, 80 years. Yet their pride is but labor and sorrow, for soon it is gone, and we fly away." I love that verse. So, as of May 14th, 2018, that hit the 70-year mark. So we're actually in the 71st year. And this verse talks about 70 years, 80 if by strength. But remember, he's talking about this generation will not pass away until all of these things has happened. That means all the way to the end of the days, back all the way to Jesus' second coming. So we've got 7 years of tribulation in there before his return. And the rapture will happen before the tribulation. So we've got about 3 years. If you look at a generation from this verse, we've got about 3 years before that tribulation absolutely has to kick in. But remember, the rapture is imminent. It can happen at any moment. So we need to be watching and waiting. We just know that we are in this generation. Whether the generation is 70 to 80 years, we don't know for sure. And I would never set a date. No man knows the day or the hour. But we are to be watching and waiting. And we can look at Israel and we can look at the signs that are all around us. And I think we can be assured that he's coming soon. And, you know, I just want you to be encouraged. I want you to be excited. I want you to be about your Father's work. You know, one of the things I've done is I've really, really stepped up my prayer life, especially for the lost. And we can look for different ways to reach the lost. You know, ask God what he wants you to do. And he uses your gifts. So be aware of how God wants to use you. But be ready. You know, look at your own heart. Are you ready? Have you accepted Jesus? And if not, today is the day of salvation. Call on him today. He wishes that none would perish. And we need to be ready. So be ready. Be out there. Share the good news. And be blessed today, my friends. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.